Once upon a time, a young man named James lived in a village in the middle of the desert. He was an educated person and doing business in the surrounding areas. He had a beautiful wife and a lovely son, but he was not happy with his life. Every now and then, he had to face new problems. He was getting worried, and he had to keep thinking about all the problems in his life, about his business problems, his health problems. There was a sage from a distant city who came along with a caravan of 100 camels. They decided to stay near the village, and soon there was talk all around the nearby villages that the sage could help them solve their problems with his wisdom. People from all around came to the sage with their problems, and James decided that he should also visit the sage. When James reached the place, there was a huge crowd of hundreds of people. After waiting a long time, it was his turn to meet with the sage, and he asked, "Holy man, I am very unhappy with my life. I have problems all around me. Sometimes I have business tensions and problems. Sometimes I have family problems. And sometimes I'm worried about my health. Please, give me a solution that will help all these problems go away so I can get on with my life and have a happy life." The sage smiled and said, "Son, it's very late today. I'll give you my answer tomorrow. But could you do one small thing for me?" James agreed to help the sage, and the sage said, "Look, son, there are 100 camels in our caravan, and the caretaker has fallen sick today. Could you take care of them tonight? Just ensure that all the camels sit down and get a proper rest. When all the 100 camels are sitting down, then you can also lay down and get some sleep." With this, the saint turned around and went to his tent. The next morning, the sage asked James, "My son, did you have a quality sleep last night?" James felt miserable and replied, "No, I couldn't sleep even for a single moment. I tried, but I could not make all those camels sit down." The saint smiled and said, "I knew that would be the case. So far, it has never happened that all these camels sit down together." James asked in a voice of amazement, "Then why did you ask me to do this?" The sage replied, "Son, did you notice when you were having that experience last night, no matter how much you tried, that all the camels would not sit down together? You probably had camels on one side sitting down, while on the other side, other camels were still standing." James nodded his head. "Yes, that's what happened." The sage continued, "Similarly, when you solve one problem, then for some reason or another, other problems start coming up in your life. As long as we live, these problems will keep arising. Sometimes less, sometimes more." The sage continued, "So what should we do?" James asked curiously. The sage replied, "Despite these problems, learn to enjoy life. If you notice what happened last night, there were many camels that sat down by themselves. And for others, even the ones that you had put in a lot of effort, they never sat down." James confirmed that's exactly what happened last night. The sage smiled and said, And then if you went back there tomorrow, you'll find that some of the camels that did not even sit down after your best efforts are now sitting down by themselves. James nodded again. The saint asked, "Do you understand something from this?" James did not have any answers, and he looked towards the sage with curious eyes. The sage continued, "Problems are like camels. Some problems get solved by themselves, some get solved with your best efforts. But some problems never get solved, even after trying your best. Trust in the timing of your life and leave such problems to time. At the right time, some of these problems will come to an end." James was stunned with the lessons learned from the camels. Now he had an altogether new perspective towards the problems in his life. What about today, right now? What are the lessons we can learn? Well, there will always be problems in our lives, but that doesn't mean that we have to keep thinking about them all day long. It's like the caretaker of the camels. All of the problems will never sit down. If they waited until that time happened, the caretaker of the camels would never get any sleep. Make your best efforts to solve your problems. But even after your best efforts, a few problems will not be under your control. Put such problems aside and enjoy your life. Live your life in a mindful way and have peace of mind. When their time comes, those problems will become solved on their own. Thank you for listening. Have a great life without too many problems.